Hello, I am Jake Collins, and this is my commentary for the 13th episode of The Mummy Secrets of the Magi, The Reckoning. Unlike Alex, this finale is far from supreme. 5 out of 10. I find most of the Underworld stuff pretty uninspired and rather silly, particularly the boat that sets you on fire if you don't believe in yourself, and I could definitely have done without seeing the Dark Medjai again. The sequence where Alex absolutely beats the living daylights out of Imhotep and the Jinn is extremely satisfying in many ways, and it's certainly what we've been waiting for, but the lead-up to it is not exactly what we've been promised after Alex's 2-season journey with the Manacle and his Medjai training, which I do find rather disappointing after all that emotional investment. Yes, indeed. 5 out of 10, and most of those 5 points, if not all of them, come from the very end, where Alex kicks some serious butt, reverses the situation from the very first episode of all, where Imhotep was dragging him around, by dragging Imhotep around, chucking him around, and throwing him into the Underworld, hopefully for all time, although the Minotaur doesn't seem to think so. And speaking of the Minotaur, in this opening scene, Ardith and the Minotaur are discussing, Alex is the Supreme Magi, isn't he? Oh yes, I think he must be. Well, that's really come out of nowhere. Thanks for that, Tom and Greg. And as I have said many times on these commentaries, it's a poor substitute for the Manacle skills in this episode. As I say in my review there, for Alex's ultimate Manacle and Medjai skills mesh for the final defeat of Imhotep. Overall, I do feel quite negative about the Supreme Magi stuff, given the point that it turns up in the series, and the quick fix it does for the end, and the fact that we get to where we wanted to be at the end of Alex and Imhotep's antagonistic journey, but Alex is not doing the final encounter for the right reasons or in exactly the right way, even though he is doing it, and it's still pretty cool. When I was writing a fanfic many years ago that was going to include the Mummy universe, wasn't really about the Mummy as such, I looked up what had happened in the series, at the conclusion of the series, on the internet, because I knew I hadn't seen the end on children's BBC. And I read how, in the final episode, Alex was revealed to be the Supreme Magi, and had defeated Imhotep in a final encounter, and chucked him into the Underworld. And I thought, oh, that sounds good. They took Alex to the end of his Medjai journey, which I know he was on. We have the final defeat of the antagonist there in the final episode, and they've obviously had the balls to finish off the series, wrap it up properly after 2 seasons, and that sounds like the right way to end it. But when I saw this episode on DVD, I thought, that internet description that I read of it was true, but really the context, the build-up to it, isn't right, and it's not written as a definitive ending to the series as I assumed it was, and think probably it really should be. And so, well, I guess I liked this episode more when I'd read about it, but hadn't seen it, and it's not the only cartoon episode that I feel that way about in the world. And this bit's quite interesting, isn't it? The cameo from Anck-su-namun, and Imhotep actually calls her there Anck-su-namun rather than Anck-su-namun, which is quite interesting, because that's her movie universe name, really, Anck-su-namun. But there she is, stuck in the wall. Imhotep abandons her. A little cameo, quite memorable. And obviously, Tom and Greg, because of course they wrote this episode, think that Anck might be good to save up and have available for future seasons if there were any. That's why they bother sticking her in there and touching base with Imhotep, as it were. But I completely disagree with them. Anck is someone I definitely think I've had more than enough of, like the Dark Medjai, who we've already seen skulking in the shadows in this episode, and really, as I said last time, like Imhotep and Weasler. Now this bit with the Devourer of Souls, it is rather pointless in the overall context of the episode, but the point is that it proves to Ardeth and the Minotaur that Alex definitely is the Supreme Magi, and he must be told and he must believe, and he's our last hope to defeat Imhotep and stop him ruling the world with his Jinn army. However, there were other times and other ways that I think Alex could and should have proved this to the Minotaur and Ardeth, and indeed to himself. And this little extra scene with the weird invisible monster is a bit of a distraction and not really the best way of doing what it does for the episode. I can't complain, of course, about all the cool moves that Alex does in it, can I? Jumping about and dislodging this piece of wall with his legs. That's pretty cool, and I suppose a bit of a precursor for the big climactic fights where Alex kicks total butt at the end of the episode. But I think it would have been much better if Ardeth and the Minotaur had seen, yes, Alex is definitely the Supreme Magi, when Alex had the chance and managed to finally get rid of Toth. I mean, if Toth is going to be hanging around in this episode, which he is, he's on screen as I say it, that should be his purpose. Alex finally gets rid of him and they're like, yes, that's proven it. We didn't need an extra monster to do that with. But of course that's not the point of Toth in this episode. It's for Ardeth, to have Ardeth's big moment in the season finale, and for Ardeth to get rid of his old arch rival. And as I don't really like Ardeth, as you may have picked up, that whole thing does leave me feeling rather cold. Ardeth's final victory over Toth, and the fact that Alex hasn't been the one to do it. You can't blame Alex in this scene for not really believing Ardeth when he's saying, you're the Supreme Magi, you don't need the Manacle, you have magic powers anyway, just use your magic powers to defeat Imhotep. I mean, Ardeth has told Alex a lot of crap over the episodes, and this sounds like the worst crap of all. And in many ways it is. No wonder Alex doesn't believe it. And look at this. Ardeth is like, well, you're the Supreme Magi, you must believe it and be absolutely sure of yourself. Now let's all get onto this boat that's going to kill us all if we don't all believe in ourselves. As I say in the review there, this boat is a load of rubbish. And it's no wonder Alex is in a bit of a state now, having been told all this, and now get on the boat and believe it, or we're all going to die. But this is at least where we do get the final encounter with Toth. And obviously Alex would have had to have had his You're the Supreme Magi chat afterwards, if he was going to be the one to deal the final blow to Toth. But the episode could easily have been rearranged in that way, and I think should have been. An interesting part of that scene, I recall, is that Chris, once again, makes something very good out of a very old, very cliched, very smelly bit of cheese. How are we going to get across this river? The Minotaur says, oh, well, we'll just go on the boat. And Alex says, sounds easy. Too easy. Which is one of the most cheesy, cliched cartoon lines in the history of the universe. But as usual, Chris injects so much into it and just makes it sound really good, really significant. And what a great performance he does, as ever. I mean, all the stuff he does with Alex being unsure of himself and not believing he's the Supreme Magi, and then coming later to believe he is the Supreme Magi, and his final encounter with Imhotep, that's all brilliant from Chris there, as usual. And yeah, perhaps it's 4 stars for the final defeat and 1 star for Chris alone. And here I was struck again by how brilliant Chris is, where the Dark Medjai is taunting him. Oh, should I call you Supreme Magi now? What a crock. And Alex is like, you're not going to get away. He's obviously got wavering confidence there and has been affected by Toth's taunts. And Chris makes that very clear. And they match it up in the face work as well. Chris always knows how Alex is feeling and why, and conveys that to us so well, and allows the animators to do so too. So that's one reason why Alex is such a fantastic character to watch and listen to, but of course there are many, many reasons. And Chris is a big one of those. And all he's got to fight Toth with, Alex, is this pathetic stick. I mean, really, it's not even a proper Medjai hooked stick, it's just some branch he's found. He does look a bit of a pathetic opponent for Toth there, but of course it's all so Ardith can come in for his final encounter. Yeah. But at least it does mean, or it should mean, that whatever happens in the future of the show, if it has one, which it doesn't, we've seen the last of the bloomin' Dark Medjai. We've already seen him fall into the lava. He's been sucked into the wellspring of darkness, so he's now in the Underworld. So presumably that means he's some sort of spirit already in some way. And now, look what happens here. He goes into the lake that sets you on fire, and gets set on fire, and burns away to nothing. Surely that means even his soul has now been destroyed. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the Dark Medjai. We can't have him in the show anymore. He's dead, he's gone, his soul is destroyed. Let's just forget about him. I suppose if you were a fan of Ardith, you'd be disappointed if Ardith hadn't had his moment here in the final episode, doing that with the Dark Medjai. But he has. So, well, there we go. It happened, and the Dark Medjai's gone forever. So that's something to be grateful for. You'll notice there the medallion of the Medjai actually releases the Jinn from their cocoon, their hive. So maybe that's what Toth was planning to do with it all along. But why does the medallion of the Medjai do that? Why would the Medjai want to release an undead army? Strange. I quite like this conversation between Alex and Rick. Again, it's Alex and Rick on the boat, where Alex is talking about his feelings and his doubts, and Rick's really supporting him emotionally. I love the way Alex turns round there, holding onto the pole and holding out a hand to Rick, and Chris says, "Dad, Ardith told me all this, blah, 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 blah," and it really makes Alex's feelings so clear and comes across so nicely and shows the relationship between Alex and Rick, how they are with each other, how open they are with each other, how emotionally supportive. So that was quite well done. So maybe half a star for that, and 3.5 stars for Alex's final fight. But of course what happens after that conversation? Oops, Alex was having self-doubt, so the boat catches fire. Crikey me. Yes, this whole thing, as I say, what do I say in the review? Uninspired and rather silly, yes I do think it is. And it does leave me, as I say, rather cold, which is ironic with all this fire going on. And Ardith again here is saying, "Doubt is part of any hero's journey, Alex. I believe in you." Well, that's not going to help him, is it? Whatever you believe, Ardith, has turned out to be complete nonsense. You do better to tell Alex he's not the Supreme Magi, and then he'll believe he is. But we're getting towards the final encounter anyway. And Alex is in a bit of a slump with his confidence. But it's quite nice, as I'll say in a moment, the way he gets his confidence back and finally does believe in himself and comes through mentally in order to pull himself together and actually defeat Imhotep like he's been destined to all along. But as I say, the problem is he comes to believe in himself and realise that, yes, this is my destiny, in relation to something he's learned 5 minutes ago, you're the Supreme Magi, rather than in relation to a huge journey, a huge struggle that he's been having for 2 seasons with the Manacle, and later the addition of his Magi training. And that's the problem. It's the conclusion of a journey that we haven't been on with him, and it's not quite the conclusion of the journey that we have been on with him. So that's why it's disappointing. But again, Chris does it absolutely brilliantly, And the potential shines through, and it would have worked pretty much the same lines and the same sequence of events if he was using the Manacle. So that's why it does earn 3.5 points for the whole fight. But still, as I say, rather disappointing in many ways. But you do get something like a decent final apocalyptic back and forth arch-enemies chat between Alex and Imhotep here. I mean, it's certainly the best you get in the series. I can take care of myself, says Alex, after Imhotep says, too bad you don't have the Manacle anymore. And he's kicking Imhotep in the chest there, and Imhotep is going, oh, God, no. Alex is more powerful than I realised, actually, but Imhotep's still not giving up. Ardith Bey has lied to you. Look at that look on Alex's face there. Determination. He's gonna come through. That's good stuff. That's part of the 3.5 points that the final Alex and Imhotep interplay has earned. I mean, it could have been a bit longer, it could have been a bit better, their chat, Alex and Imhotep's chat, but it's pretty good. And we even get there a bit of Evie and calling back to the very first episode with their professional rivalry, and Callin is like, haha, this is what I've been wanting all along, to see my professional rival about to be killed by a load of undead warriors. It remembers its roots in some ways, this episode. And Imhotep tries to taunt Alex with the medallion here, and this is where Imhotep makes his fatal mistake. He gets Alex to look at what's happening to his family, and goes, too bad you can't save your family now. This is your destiny. And that's what finally makes Alex realise, no, this is my destiny. And what wonderful voice work Chris does there. Destiny? No. This is absolutely brilliant. And then suddenly Alex is full of confidence, and for very good reason. The situation from the very first episode is reversed. Alex is the one throwing, chucking, dragging Imhotep all over the place. Absolutely wonderful. And of course, he does some serious moves here on the Jinn in order to save Ardith, Brick, Evie and Jonathan as well. Great stuff. But he should be doing it with a Manacle, not with his new, random, out-of-the-blue magic powers. But oh dear, Imhotep grabs Alex from behind. Is it all going to go wrong? No, Alex's legs come through as usual, and Imhotep slams into the wall. Alex does some great jumping moves there, uses his telekinetic powers, and a roundhouse kick, excellent, to kick Imhotep across the cave. Great stuff, and as I say, that all would have worked if he was doing it properly with the mixture of his Manacle and Medjai skills, and so would this, plucking Imhotep out of his whirlwind and chucking him into the hive there. I mean, that's really great. But the reasons behind it have gone somewhat awry. Which is a bit of a shame, but it's still great to watch, so stimulating in so many ways. And here we get the appearance of Osiris. Osiris the great warrior, rather than Osiris the god of the dead. And Osiris promises some things for the future of the show here. Many new abilities will soon make themselves known to you, Supreme Magi, and you will use your power for good and be a great force for good. And that's what the show's going to be about in future, is it, Tom and Greg? But surely Imhotep isn't going to be involved, is he? Oh, well, apparently he is. Jonathan's so pleased. Imhotep's stuck in the Underworld. And then the Minotaur pours cold water on that by saying, where he will form many new and powerful alliances. Undoubtedly we haven't seen the last of the mummy. And I think, really, you want to do more with Imhotep? Well, I guess the show's named after him, but it's only half named after him now. Why not a spin-off series entitled Secrets of the Magi? Well, that's where I'd like to see it go anyway. But there we are. Perhaps, on the whole, it's better to finish here. The show has lost its way a little. I have no doubt about that, says Alex. Not about the show having lost its way, but the life of the Supreme Magi being fraught with danger and interesting adventures. And there the series ends. So, what can I say about The Mummy, the animated series, just to round off? Well, it's had a lot of really fantastic high peaks, some inexplicable low troughs, particularly in Season 2, but on the whole, I guess the main thing I take away from it is I'll always love Alex from The Mummy, the cartoon series, not the movie version, in so many different ways, and enjoy watching him, and really, there's plenty about the show to back him up and make it a well worthwhile experience to come back to the DVDs again and again. That was The Mummy, the animated series, and I was Jake Collins. Goodbye.